vividly remember the first time I felt successful in college. It was in an unlikely place, at least for me, a communications course, where the entire objective was to give speeches. I was terrified. I remember the professor asking if anyone was particularly nervous about giving a speech. So I slipped my hand up and she came over to me and talked to me one-on-one. And I told her that if I had to give a speech in front of all of these strangers, I would probably die. Spoiler alert, I didn't die. And actually, I found that I was really good at giving speeches, and I won the class-wide speech competition because I really enjoy sharing my passions and interests with my classmates. Not only am I a licensed clinical professional counselor, author, coach, and educator, I'm also a person living with ADHD. Some of the strengths that come along with this for me and for many others include passion, curiosity, and energy. For me, this often translates into me sharing copious amounts of information about things I have been curious enough to learn every single minute detail about. One of the weaknesses I identified, however, was that when I was in school, I found it difficult to identify the main details from a textbook or from a lecture. However, in my curiosity-filled learning endeavors independently, I get to choose what's relevant for me, which is how I'm able to transfer my strength of curiosity to knowledge and share my expertise with you today. I often share with my clients how their greatest strength and their greatest weakness are two sides of the same coin, and different environments are going to bring out your strengths more, and other environments might bring out some of your weaknesses. Unfortunately, for many students in academia with ADHD, autism, and learning disabilities, their strengths are underappreciated and their weaknesses are highlighted. They are often exposed to othering simply because of the way that their brains developed, and they have to jump through extra barriers in order to receive an equitable education. I'm proposing the way that we reimagine the way that we treat these students and see the needs that they have, and realize that everyone has needs, but so far, some people's needs have been prioritized while others have not, creating extra barriers. According to research by the American College Health Association, 54,000 undergraduate students were surveyed. 15% reported having ADHD, 4.7% reported having a specific learning disability, and 2.9% reported having autism. And according to US Department of Education, only 37% of these students report their disability to their university, even though it's a barrier to their learning. So why are these students not reporting their disabilities to their university? Well, there are many barriers. Number one, the burden of proving that they're disabled. There are some students that come from high school to college and they already have had accommodations, and they're able to take some of those accommodations with them to college. However, there are other students, especially students with marginalized identities such as women or people of color, who don't receive a proper diagnosis before college. Also, people who might be underinsured or have a lack of mental health knowledge in their family of origin. These are the students who are more likely to have to spend their extra time and financial resources in college to get a diagnosis in order to access disability services or accommodations. Second, the stigma. There is often stigma, even from some of the most educated people, about these conditions. We're used to hearing things like, if you're autistic, how can you make eye contact? Or, you're not hyper, how could you have ADHD? Or, you're too smart to have a learning disability. Sometimes it feels better just to not say anything at all. And number three, lack of acceptance of their own condition. For many of us, we receive many negative messages before we get to college about our disability, leading us to want to prove that we can do everything on our own. I can remember the first person I worked with who had ADHD, and they would say things like, if I just cared more about myself, I could do better, or I just need to try harder. And since then, I have heard that over and over again, and most times that leads to people experiencing burnout, anxiety, and depression, rather than actually being able to try harder. Because what they actually need is better support in the academic environment. So as you can see, there are many barriers for these students to receive these accommodations, including emotional barriers, financial barriers, and time barriers. Imagine someone inviting you to their house and saying that they're going to make something that you're allergic to and that you'll have to bring your own food. I would wonder, why can't they make something we can all safely consume? Do they even want me at their house? That's often how it feels for students in academia who are neurodivergent. If it's supposed to be for all of us, why should I go out of my way to make it accessible? We don't often acknowledge the unique perspectives and the strengths and the ways that these students contribute to the academic environment. We consider the accommodations we provide to them ways that we're making their education easier when we're just making it different. I've coined the term streakness to describe the ways that our strengths and our weaknesses are two sides of the same coin. I talked about my own experience where my ability to dive deep into learning sometimes doesn't work out very well in the educational environment. And there are a lot of examples of this with other conditions as well. I'll give you a couple examples, but of course this might vary from person to person, even amongst people with the same condition. I don't know who's familiar with the entrepreneurial show Shark Tank, but this previous fall I was able to go to an event hosted by one of the sharks and learn that 50% of the sharks actually have dyslexia. This is no shock because many people with dyslexia have great problem-solving skills, and they're able to connect different ideas across various places. In education, they do best when they're able to connect ideas across curriculum versus thinking more linearly. They may be put at a disadvantage when they're expected to engage with rote memorization or organizing written texts. Autistic people are very routine, structured, and they depend on their being able to expect what's going to happen next. Oftentimes in education, they're put at a disadvantage when they're given vague instructions when they don't know what to expect, or things have changed and they haven't been given clear indication of that. I have witnessed how difficult it can be for someone to go from high school to college when they have autism because the expectations and rules have changed, and sometimes this isn't verbalized to them. And number 3, one more example of ADHD. Many people with ADHD are great under pressure. In fact, many people with ADHD make great first responders. Oftentimes when we struggle to focus on things, we can really focus at the last minute when there's a high pressure situation. That makes us very deadline oriented in an academic setting. If we know what the deadline is, we can get there. However, sometimes we miss the deadline a little bit and need a little bit of flexibility. So it's not great if you tell us at your earliest convenience, but we also sometimes need a little bit of extra flexibility. So as you can see, we contribute a lot to the academic environment, and if it could work with us, it could work for us. So how do we make an environment where all of these students are able to thrive and bring their best selves to the academic environment? Number 1, creating a task force of faculty, students, or staff, or professional consultants like myself to review curriculum policies and procedures that we can identify where we might be put at a disadvantage and what things that might help us be able to play to our strengths. Number 2, as I talked about earlier, it's often difficult for us to talk about our conditions because we're afraid of being stigmatized. If we create an environment where everyone's welcome to share how they learn best, then we can create an environment where it's flexible for everyone and no one has to out themselves specifically. And number 3, drop our preconceived notions of what we think adults should be able to do. We all have our unique strengths and challenges. As I stand before you today, I reflect on myself as a college student in a communications class, and I'm appreciating the transformative power of accepting our differences. Just as I was originally afraid to give speeches and found my strengths for sharing information with others, we can help other students embrace their unique strengths and challenges. I'm proposing that we create an environment where we're not measured by our ability to conform, but by what we can bring to the table as individuals.